What if the moment you step off a stagecoach, the whole town already believes it owns your future? The stagecoach lurched to a stop in a cloud of red alkali dust, and Eliza Hart stepped down onto the packed earth of Dry Gulch's main street. The Arizona sun beat down without mercy, turning the air into a shimmering haze. She adjusted her wide-brimmed hat and took in the town. Weathered buildings clung to the desert like survivors refusing to let go. A general store, a saloon called the Dusty Rose, a dentist's office with a crooked sign, and at the far end, a sad-looking courthouse that leaned like it couldn't keep itself upright. "That's $2, miss," the driver called, eyeing her riding trousers with irritation. Eliza paid without comment. She'd heard enough opinions about her clothes on the long trip from Missouri. None of them had changed her mind. Trousers let her move. Trousers let her work. And she had not traveled 800 miles to be told what a woman should or shouldn't wear. She lifted her carpet bag and headed for Murphy's General Store. A bell jingled as she stepped inside. The cool shade wrapped around her like a gift. "Help you?" the storekeeper muttered without looking up. "I'm looking for Mr. Murphy. I wrote about the bookkeeping position." The man's head snapped up. His gaze moved over her dusty boots and split riding skirt. His ears flushed pink. "You're E. Hart?" "Eliza Hart," she corrected. "I assure you, Mr. Murphy, my arithmetic works just fine no matter what I'm wearing." Before he could respond, the door swung open again. Spurs clinked sharply against the floorboards as a tall man stepped inside. Sun-faded shirt, dust-stained jeans. A Colt, .45 resting low on his hip. Everything about him was lean, weather-carved, and dangerous. Cole Avery. Eliza didn't know his name yet, but she felt his presence like the air tightening. Murphy rushed to greet him. "Your feed order's ready, Mr. Avery." Cole didn't look Eliza's way. He moved with calm purpose, checking ammunition by the counter. Eliza recognized the type instantly. Men shaped by the land. Men who wasted nothing. Not words, not movement, not trust. Murphy returned with a ledger, flipping nervously through the numbers. "These prices jumped 30% since last month," Cole said flatly. Must be a mistake." Eliza stepped forward. "May I?" Murphy blinked. Cole raised an eyebrow. But neither objected. She scanned the figures once, then again. "Here," she said, "you carried the one wrong. And this subtotal is off by $12. Also, you're charging Mr. Avery the premium rate for feed, but this amount qualifies for a bulk discount." Silence. Murphy blushed to the roots of his hair. Cole finally looked at her. Really looked. A spark of interest flickered in his winter-gray eyes. "Well," Cole said, picking up the corrected receipt, "seems you found your bookkeeper." He left with a nod, the door closing behind him. Murphy cleared his throat. "Miss Hart, I suppose, yes. Well, the job is yours. Temporarily, through fall roundup." Quote. An hour later, Eliza walked back onto the dusty street with employment secured, a roof arranged at Sister Agnes's lodging house, and a small advance for essentials. A good start. But the street was buzzing with an unease she couldn't name. A black carriage rolled past, drawn by matched gray horses. The crowd shifted away, as if the road itself bowed in fear. The man who stepped out wore a heavy black suit despite the heat. He surveyed the town with cold satisfaction, like someone counting what already belonged to him. "That's Judge Rohr," Murphy whispered at her shoulder. "Circuit judge. He'll be holding court for weeks." Something in his voice chilled her. She watched Judge Rohr disappear into the courthouse with 2 armed men behind him. Later, Sister Agnes showed her to a simple room with a clean bed and bright morning light. The nun's eyes were shrewd, hard, the eyes of a woman who'd seen more than she spoke. "You'll find Dry Gulch decent enough," she said, "but folk here know better than to poke at business that ain't theirs, and those who forget." Her smile thinned. They learned quick. That evening, Eliza explored the town. The sun dropped behind red mesas, painting the sky in copper streaks. She wandered past the blacksmith's forge, the tamale cart, the telegraph office. A crowd formed outside the courthouse. Judge Rohr took a raised platform, his voice loud and oily as he read from a document. By authority of the Arizona Territory, these lands are hereby subject to seizure for railroad development. Eliza's gaze caught Cole Avery near the back, his face carved from stone as Rohr listed the properties. The Hobson Claim, the Two Rivers Ranch, and Riverbend Holdings, occupied by Cole Avery. The crowd erupted in shouts. Rohr smiled like a wolf who'd already eaten. As Cole strode away, Eliza stepped back, only to find herself face to face with a well-dressed man in a bowler hat. "Edwin Pike," he said smoothly, "information broker, problem solver. Should you need help navigating Dry Gulch, I am at your service." "I'll manage," she replied. "I'm sure you will." His pale eyes gleamed. Women who come west alone tend to be resourceful. Quote, she walked away quickly, feeling his gaze like a hand on her back. The next morning, she buried herself in Murphy's books, but the more she read, the more her stomach tightened. Fees made no sense. Assessments tripled without explanation. Dates didn't match. A shadow fell over her ledger. "Find anything interesting?" Cole asked from across the counter. "That depends," she said. "Do mysterious fees and false charges interest you?" His jaw tightened. "Show me." She turned the ledger toward him. His eyes moved fast. "These fees," he said softly. "They weren't here a year ago." "They were invented," she corrected, "on purpose." Cole leaned closer. "Miss Hart, folks who dig too deep around here sometimes disappear. And folks who don't dig," she replied, "get robbed blind." Before he could answer, the door burst open. 3 armed men stepped in. Clean boots, new guns, not cowboys, hired enforcers. "Well, well," their leader drawled. "Cole Avery. Judge wants to see you." Cole didn't move. Danger tightened around him like coiled wire. Eliza acted before she could think. She accidentally knocked over her ink bottle, splattering black ink over the men's boots. "Oops," she said loudly. "So clumsy." The spell broke. The gunman cursed and backed away from the spreading stain. Cole's tense posture eased. Outside, the men walked off with a final threat. Cole looked at Eliza. Really looked. That was clever. That was necessary. He hesitated. "Riverbend needs a bookkeeper, room, board, and wages. Interested?" She held his gaze. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow," he said, "after we survive Judge Rohr." Eliza breathed deep. Dry Gulch had secrets. Riverbend was in danger. And she, without meaning to, had stepped right into the fire. But she wasn't afraid. Not anymore. What if the only way to fight a powerful man was with the truth he never expected you to uncover? The wagon rattled over another deep rut, and Eliza gripped the wooden seat to keep from sliding into Jonah Reed. He had been sent to collect her from Sister Agnes's boarding house, and though he had spoken barely 10 words since, his silence felt steady, not cold. The kind of silence belonging to men who had seen enough trouble to know words weren't always useful. "A river bend just beyond that rise," Jonah finally said, his voice carrying a soft Georgia drawl. "Not much to look at right now, but it's honest land." They crested the hill, and Eliza sucked in a breath. Riverbend Ranch stretched below. Weathered buildings clustered around a stout adobe house. Corrals patched and repatched. A lazy windmill turning in the dry heat. Beyond it rolled endless grassland that faded into far mesas, and slicing through it all, a dusty channel where a river should have run. "The river?" she asked. "Dry 3 months now," Jonah said. "We're holding on with the wells." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Eliza had seen what happened to ranches without water. They vanished. Maria Valdez met them at the porch, hands dusted with flour and eyes sharp with intelligence. She looked Eliza up and down with interest instead of judgment. "So you're the woman who splashed ink on Pike's men," Maria said with approval. "Good. They need more people making them nervous." "It was an accident," Eliza said lightly. Maria smirked. "Revolutions often start with accidents." She led Eliza to a small, spare room off the kitchen. This was the foreman's before he left for California Gold. Cole sleeps in the barn most nights. Thinks beds make a man go soft. Eliza set her bag down. Through the window, she could see Cole in the corral, working a young horse with slow patience. The kind of patience born only from surviving too much. "You've known him long?" she asked. 5 years, Maria said. "Since my husband died. Cole hired me when others said a Mexican widow had no place on a ranch. He collects strays, makes them family. And now I'm the newest stray?" "Maybe," Maria said. "Depends if you're running from something or towards something." Before Eliza could answer, Cole appeared in the doorway, dust clinging to him like a second skin. "Office is in the back," he said. "Books are, well, they're books." The office was worse than she imagined. Receipts piled in boxes, ledgers stacked on chairs, scraps of paper with numbers that meant nothing without context. A battlefield of arithmetic gone to war with itself. Eliza rolled up her sleeves. "I'll need coffee and the kitchen table." Cole raised an eyebrow. "You plan to fix this?" Quote. "No," she said. "I plan to understand it, then fix it." That earned her a rare nod of respect. "Tomorrow's hearing at 10, he said. "You still planning to come?" "Try to stop me." He almost smiled. Almost. Eliza worked through lunch, through dinner, through the deep hours of night. The numbers began to form patterns. Ugly patterns. Riverbend was profitable, or should have been. But fees, made up, inflated, impossible, were bleeding the ranch dry. Court filing fees. Territory assessments. Railroad survey charges for tracks that did not exist. Jonah passed the kitchen, cleaning his rifle. "Roar again." "Roar," she confirmed. Maria brought more coffee. "Let me show you something." She returned with a leather folder full of her late husband's surveying papers, maps decades old, soil reports, elevation lines, mineral notes. Eliza followed one line with her finger. "This shows Riverbend sits on the deepest part of the water table and coal deposits?" Maria nodded. "Roar wants that land for a reason." Eliza understood then. This wasn't about building a railroad line. This was about stealing coal and controlling water. She worked until dawn. When she found Cole at the well, hauling water for the horses, she laid out everything she'd discovered. He listened quietly, jaw tight, eyes cold. "They want to bleed you out before spring," she said. "You'll be bankrupt in 8 months." Cole didn't speak for a long time. Finally he said, "Can you prove it?" Quote, "Not all, not yet, but enough to delay the seizure." "We'll take delay," Jonah said, joining them. "Delay buys us time. Time buys us hope." The courthouse was full by sunrise. Ranchers, merchants, miners. Everyone had come to see how far Judge Roar would go. Cole stood beside Eliza at the defense table. Jonah sat behind them, shotgun resting between his boots. Roar read from his papers, oily as ever. "The territory offers fair compensation, $200. The crowd gasped. Riverbend was worth thousands. "That's theft," someone shouted. Roar banged his gavel. "Order! Mr. Avery, you have 10 days to vacate." Eliza stepped forward before fear could stop her. "Your Honor," she said clearly, "the defense requests to examine the survey reports you claim support this seizure." Roar stiffened. Pike whispered urgently into his ear. "These surveys," Eliza said when Pike handed them over, "are dated last month, but the territorial seal on them wasn't adopted until 3 months later." Murmurs rippled across the room. "And these receipt numbers," she continued, pulling out the proof she'd copied late into the night, "are duplicates of unrelated transactions." Pike paled. Roar slammed his gavel again. "Miss Hart, you are dangerously close to accusing the court of—" "I'm not accusing anyone," she said. "I am pointing out mathematical inconsistencies, unless the court prefers to ignore evidence entirely." Roar's face purpled. The crowd leaned forward. Roar swallowed. "The court will recess 1 week to review these claims." Seizure postponed. People cheered. Hats flew. Riverbend had survived, for now. Outside, Pike approached like a viper in a suit. "Impressive performance, Miss Hart," he said. but dangerous, very dangerous. I do arithmetic, she replied. Not performances. Cole stepped between them. She's not interested. Pike smiled thinly. Dry Gulch has a way of chewing up women who don't know their place. Cole's voice dropped to a growl. Get away from her. Pike's hand twitched near his coat, but he backed off. You have made powerful enemies, he said. Both of you. He walked away. Eliza felt her knees shaking. Cole's hand touched her elbow gently. You shouldn't have spoken up like that. I had to. He held her gaze. Then you're braver than you look. Or foolish. Sometimes they're the same. They left town quickly. The sun hung low and red as blood behind them. Halfway to Riverbend, Jonah pointed. Smoke. The water tank was burning. They raced toward it. Maria and 2 ranch hands were fighting the fire, but the dry wood was too far gone. The tank collapsed in a burst of steam and sparks. It's a warning, Jonah said darkly. Next time, they won't stop at the tank. That night, when Eliza found Cole sitting alone on the porch, rifle within reach, the weight of everything hit her. I made things worse, she whispered. No, he said softly. You bought us time. She sat beside him. The night wind smelled of smoke and sage. Why'd you stand up in there? Cole asked. This isn't your fight. It is now. She told him about Missouri, about the lies, the forged papers, the accusations that ruined her career. I know what it's like, she said quietly, to be destroyed by powerful men. He looked at her for a long moment. You're not what I expected, he said softly. Disappointed? No. The word was simple. Honest, and it landed deep. Coyotes called in the distance. The ranch creaked in the cooling night, and 2 people who had never expected to trust anyone again found themselves sitting close enough to feel each other breathe. Tomorrow would bring more danger. But tonight, they had something new. Something that felt like the start of hope. What if the truth you uncover becomes the spark that turns a frightened town into an army? The week before, the hearing passed in a blur of long nights, paper trails, and quiet fear. Eliza barely slept, poring over documents with a determination that went deeper than exhaustion. Cole and Jonah spent the days reinforcing the ranch, digging new wells and watching the road like hawks. Riverbend had already been burned once. No one doubted someone might try again. When morning of the hearing finally arrived, Dry Gulch felt different. Crowded, tense, expectant. Wagons rolled in from every ranch within 20 miles. People squeezed into the courthouse and packed against the windows outside. Even Sister Agnes stood among them, determined and silent, holding a thick folder of church records. Eliza felt the weight of every eye, but when Cole took his place beside her at the defense table, his steady presence calmed her heartbeat. Tom Harland, deputy, restless and struggling with his own conscience, stood near the door, hand on his holster. The Coyote Spurs stood opposite him, Pike's private men dressed like deputies but carrying eyes like predators. Judge Rohr took the bench with the confidence of a man who believed no one could touch him. This hearing reconvenes, he said. We begin with the matter of Riverbend's seizure. Pike rose, smooth as ever. The territorial survey shows the railroad line must pass directly through the Avery property. Compensation has been calculated at $200. The crowd erupted in outrage. Rohr slammed his gavel. Order! Cole stood, jaw tight. My father is buried on that land. You cannot. The law says I can, Rohr snapped. And I do. Eliza stepped forward before she could second-guess herself. Your Honor, she said calmly, we have the right under territorial law to examine evidence being used against us. Pike smirked. Miss Hart, this is not a schoolhouse. This is a legal proceeding. Which depends on documents, she replied. Documents the defense has a right to see. The crowd murmured in agreement. Trapped by his own rules, Rohr waved Pike forward. Provide the surveys. Eliza took them with steady hands, and her heart dropped as she flipped through them. They were fake, obvious fakes. These surveys, she said loudly enough for the whole room to hear, are dated last month but stamped with a seal that wasn't adopted until weeks later. The courthouse exploded in noise. Eliza didn't stop. "These receipts," she continued, laying out copies she had made, "match other transactions from unrelated merchants. Someone reused numbers to create false evidence." Pike's face drained of color. Tom Harlan shifted uneasily. Roar pounded his gavel again and again. "Enough, Miss Hart, unless you can prove." A voice cut him off. "Proof enough for you, Judge." Heads turned. A dusty man in a black coat stepped into the courtroom. A federal marshal's badge gleamed on his chest. "Marshal Marcus Fillmore," he announced. "I've received interesting telegrams about Dry Gulch." The room went silent. "I'm here," Fillmore continued, "to investigate allegations of corruption and forged territorial documents." Pike stiffened. Roar's robe rustled as he sank deeper into his chair. "Marshal," Roar sneered, "you are overstepping your—" "Am I?" Fillmore asked, pulling out a sheaf of telegrams. "Funny thing, Surveyor James Holcomb denies ever signing these papers. Says his signature was forged." A ripple went through the crowd. Pike choked. Eliza handed Fillmore her own stack of evidence. "There are duplicated receipts, inflated fees, fabricated charges." Fillmore scanned them quickly. "You've done good work, Miss Hart." Roar surged to his feet. "This is outrageous." But he never finished. One of Pike's men went for his gun. The courtroom exploded. A shot cracked through the air. Jonah was already moving, dragging Eliza to the floor. Cole's hand closed around his Colt in one smooth motion, firing instinctively to disarm the gunman. Tom drew next, shooting the second Spurs pistol clean out of his hand. The third stood trembling, hands raised as federal marshals swarmed in. Chaos turned to order as quickly as it had begun. When the smoke cleared, Roar sat frozen at his bench, face pale. "Judge Roar," Fillmore said calmly, "you are under arrest for corruption, conspiracy, and attempted fraud against the United States government." Pike tried to slip out a side door, only to be caught by two marshals waiting outside. The crowd erupted in cheers. Hats flew. People shouted Cole's name, Eliza's name, Tom's name. Sister Agnes let out a victorious cry. Even the sternest ranchers clapped each other on the back. For the first time in a long time, Dry Gulch believed justice was real. Outside, the sun was setting in streaks of rose and gold across the mesas. Eliza leaned against the courthouse wall, shaking as the adrenaline faded. Cole stepped beside her, offering quiet support with nothing more than his presence. "You all right?" he asked softly. "I think so." She laughed shakily. "Is it always like this here?" Quote, "Only on court days." Marshal Fillmore approached. "You two did good. You turned the tide. The whole territory will hear about what happened today." He tipped his hat and moved on. Tom Harlan stopped next, looking exhausted but proud. "I sent those telegrams," he admitted, "after you showed me the forged receipts last week. Figured someone needed to know the truth." Cole shook his hand. "You did right." Eliza smiled. "Thank you, Tom." When the dust finally settled, people drifted toward the saloon, ready to celebrate what felt like the end of a long, terrible chapter. Cole and Eliza walked slowly to the wagon. "You saved my land," he said quietly. "You saved me from getting shot," she replied. "Fair trade." They shared a tired smile. But beneath everything, beneath the danger, beneath the dust, there was something deeper growing, something neither wanted to name yet, but both felt. Back at Riverbend, lamps glowed warm in the dusk. Maria waited on the porch. Jonah stabled the horses. Tom promised to visit again soon. And when the last of the excitement faded into night, Eliza and Cole stood on the porch together, watching stars appear over the dark valley. "We're not done," she said softly. "Pike has money. Allies. They'll come again." "I know." Cole rested his hand on the railing. "But next time, they won't catch us by surprise." She looked at him, tired but certain. "We'll fight," she said. "We will," he answered, "together." A breeze carried the scent of cooling earth and sage. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. And for the first time since arriving in Dry Gulch, Eliza felt like she wasn't running anymore. She was standing her ground, beside someone who would stand with her. Whatever storm came next, they would face it together.